All right, everybody, thank you for joining us. Coach is going to begin with a brief opening statement. After that, we'll take questions. Raise your hand as usual protocol here. And Coach.
We're excited to have an opportunity to play Rutgers and Coach Dino. I know that this has been a rival game for the two universities for a long period of time. I know the community is going to be excited to get back into the Dome, and we can't wait to have our 12th man back with us. It's going to be an exciting game. It's going to be a physical game. We're looking forward to it. On the topic of Chris Elmore, because of federal reasons and stuff like that, we're not allowed to discuss that at all, so I won't be taking any questions on that. Okay? First question?
Dan, please go.
Coach, just assessing Tommy Vito after that first game and his running ability and the dual threat that he created for you in that victory.
I thought he had a really, really good game, threw for a high percentage, made some really good decisions. And even on the one sack, I believe, of the game, had a miscue with something going on with the wide receivers. And then he had the knowledge of knowing that it was going to be a dead play, pushed the ball to the line of scrimmage, not taking a sack, and then he even centered the ball for the place kicker, which I thought was really cool. So really happy with this play. Thought he did a really nice job.
Brent and Steven.
Coach, what are some things you saw from Sean Tucker's game that you said, okay, that's a step forward? You didn't know that last year, but he knows that now.
I thought he really ran well behind his pads. Now he had he had 2 or 3 runs where he jumped out there, but it's the little runs that make a difference whether you're going to push up for big numbers. And if you watch his 3-yard runs, his 4-yard runs, his 5-yard runs, he really ran really hard behind between the tackles. So I mean that was a doggone good game, really good game by him, and a lot of that credit goes to the offensive line and the guys who were blocking up front too. They did a fine job.
Steven.
I wanted to ask about Max May. Played a pretty big role for you against Ohio. What did you see from him? What can you tell us about him and your experience with him in the last year? And how different is it to have him in there?
You know, he's growing. He's not tailor-made yet. He's not. He'll get mad. He won't get mad for me saying that, but he's learning the game. He's an international player, but he works really hard at his craft, and he's a tough guy. You know, he's not, don't go and kick sand on this guy at the beach. You won't like the outcome. He's a tough guy, but he still has things to learn, and he's getting better, but we were proud with his performance.
Do you feel like from a playbook perspective, like having him in there instead of Chris limits you in any ways?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
So along the same lines with Max, there has to be a good recruiting story, right? Because you're not like just hanging out in Germany looking for football players very often. How'd you guys find them?
I'll tell you, the recruiting story all lies with Coach Dino Babers, and you need to talk to him about it. It was very interesting.
Christian.
There were a couple of red zone opportunities there.
Okay, I cannot hear you. Okay,
Sorry, you had a couple of red zone opportunities where you had goal-to-go situations, couldn't put it into the end zone. What did you see in those couple situations that you think you can improve on for the next couple of games?
Well, I think you guys saw it. We had some guys open in the end zone. We didn't get the ball there. Now, it's not always for the reason that everybody thinks it is, but we wish we could have capitalized on that. And then we had a deep ball down the sideline that was right off one of our guys' fingertips. But overall, we're really happy with the win, and we thought the guys did a nice job down there.
And then with Chris Blytch, we were talking to him last week. He was very emotional about having his first start, and then after the game, he was talking about how he liked his play and the O-line's play in general, just because of how many yards Sean was able to get. What do you think about his play specifically, but the O-line in general?
You know, Chris is a Pennsylvania guy. He's got that attitude about him when he goes about his work, and I'm really proud of what he's done. He's been here a long time to walk out there as a starter for us, and he's finally gotten that opportunity, and I thought for an opening game he did not bad.
Coach, you touched on the rivalry with Rutgers. What kind of role has Greg Schiano played in that?
I don't know. I don't know what kind of role. I know this is his second time around. I know they were very good the first time, and because they were so good, he got an opportunity to go to the pros. But you'd probably need to go in the record books and ask some other guys about how he's been involved in the rivalry.
Fair enough. And then in terms of recruiting, what's the importance of this game against Rutgers? Does it have any additional importance?
You know, I think it's really obvious that New Jersey has a lot of good players, and that not only us, but other schools go in there and recruit that city as well. Some of our most explosive players on this team are from New Jersey. So We understand that it's a recruiting battle. I think recruiting is a little bit different now because I think there's a lot of people who go all over the country, and it's more international recruiting as we got people from Hawaii on our football team, you know. So that being said, New Jersey guys go all over the place. It's not like the old days where everybody would stay at home. But it's a very important recruiting area. There's no doubt about it, and it's one of the top recruiting areas for us.
Dan and Stephen.
Coach, just what you could say about Deuce Chestnut and what he was able to do coming in as a true freshman. You lose Iffy, and then you gain another guy that people may not want to throw toward him.
Sunday in the team meeting, Deuce Chestnut got the game ball on defense. And 35 years, I've never seen anybody, I've never even heard of anybody getting a game ball in their first collegiate game. Now, I'm sure there's some guys out there, but they were never on my teams. So it really, really is an amazing deal. It's something that you don't anticipate, you could have never thought of, and doggone glad it happened. We're really happy he's here.
I want to ask about special teams a little bit. You obviously don't have Lustig this year. How did that work? Who's kind of in charge of it on game day? And then James Williams was great in his first game. What did you kind of see from him?
I'm not going to go through the procedures, okay, because I think it's going to be an advantage to other people. When people know who's doing what, they know who to look to and go through their background, so I'm not going to give that out. What was your second question?
James Williams seemed like he was really good. What did you kind of see from him after maybe being worried about the spookiness last year?
You know, he pinned 2 amazing punts inside the 5, and one where one of our guys, I'm not going to say who because he already knows, made a major mistake, and James bailed him out. He really, really had a nice job. He really did a nice job. Now, this crew that's coming in, Rutgers will get after him. I mean, they have the ability to pressure that unit, and I'm quite sure they will. So he passed test 1, and now he has another test 2 coming up this Saturday.
So James said in the preseason that he thought Blair Kavanaugh was really important to the success of the special teams during camp and keep things moving. I guess without sharing too much, what has Blair done to keep that moving without a full-time coordinator?
I think the biggest thing people need to understand without a full-time coordinator is that we share the responsibility throughout the entire staff. Other coaches have specialized units, okay, and between sharing all that stuff, we put a game plan together and then we execute it as a staff.
I'm hoping to clarify this just a little bit. So when you said federal reasons to start, you mean FERPA, right? Federal is a scary word.
Okay, well, I may be wrong with the word. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I just know that I can't say anything about it or I will get in major trouble.
Chris sort of broke this wall down a little bit last week, but he talked about Sean Tucker and being deserving of wearing the number 44. What do you think about that, and what's your approach to that number in general?
My thoughts are on Rutgers and trying to find a way to score one more point than those guys. And if we get far enough down the road with enough good things, we may have an opportunity to talk about that later. And if we could talk about that later, that would be really cool.
Yeah, Coach, can you talk a little bit about Tommy DeVito overcoming the leg injury and still maintaining a starting job week 1?
You said overcoming his leg injury from last year?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, he's fully recovered from that. So it was just a matter of him getting out and exercising. But Tommy had a really nice game. He did a nice job in camp. He carried that over to the first game, and we're looking forward to him being even better and better.
Coach, can you describe the energy in the locker room right now? How's everybody feeling as far as playing in front of the fans?
The energy is good. Now, first of all, that locker room in Ohio was the smallest locker room that I've ever been in before, which is one of the reasons why we moved our post game outside on the turf, which is not bad. It's like Friday night lights. It's like Remember the Titans. That's how we used to do it in the old days. It was right there in the corner of the end zone. That's how we did it in high school. So no big deal. Everybody could remember that. But the mood of the team is really, really good. We understand that we have a Big Ten opponent coming into our house, and it's a big game, and guys are trying to get healed up because they know it's going to be extremely physical.
Coach, what can you tell us about this Rutgers team offensively? They put up 61 points last week. Where's the defense mind going into this next game?
Yeah, they're a good team. They scored a lot of points. They got on them in the second quarter, really close to halftime, and then they extended it in the third quarter once they had him, they took him out. You know, once they got him on the ropes, they took him out. So this is an explosive crew. Their skill is really, really good, really, really fast. They can do things. They're kickoff returners or punt returners. You know, this is a very, very skilled unit where we had some opportunities in the Ohio games when some guys got out that we could run them down and give a chance, have an opportunity to play goal line defense, and our defense did a fantastic job of keeping them out of the end zone. These guys, if they get out on us, they're going to be hard to go get. You know, they'll probably get all of it. So we got to really cross our T's and dot our I's in that situation.
Brent and then Nate.
Coach, what's your input into the schedule and playing teams? You know, you mentioned the importance of a rivalry game, a Big Ten team. You know, when that comes up, what kind of insight do you give it?
You know, it's kind of a lot of the head coaches have a lot of control over their schedules. Football is different. Football is, you know, the administration, a lot of other people get involved. They do come to me before they sign a game for the most part, but a lot of that's handled through the administration, where in other sports, the head coaches have a lot more control over it.
Nate.
Do you know how long Chris will be out for? How would you characterize that, I guess, week to week, indefinitely?
Not the last part. Okay.
Got time for a couple more. We'll start here.
Coach, this is more of a different question, but we were talking about this, I was talking about training camp, just the music you play at practice. Tyler was telling me you're the first coach that would play music. And
At Syracuse.
You want to get him in trouble.
Yeah. But why do you always start with Smooth by Santana and end with I Feel Good by James Brown?
I don't always start with Smooth.
Okay.
But Smooth's a really good song. You ever seen the lyrics of it?
Yeah, what about the lyrics?
I think it has some meaning. I think it has some meaning, and it's a crossover song. You know, it's got some jazz to it. It's got some old school and some new school. You know, the key thing about the first song and the last song is that every song in between that, it's the players. The players get to pick, minus certain language that's not acceptable to the head coach. But the first song and the last song is a bridge between old school to new school. And there's just certain songs that young people need to know the words to. Okay, so that's what the first song and the last song's about. Although the first song has changed over the years, the last song has never changed.
Last two will start Christian and then here.
Coach, Sean Tucker got over 20 carries, well over 20 carries against Ohio. How important was it to see that big of a workload for him? And is that the type of production that you want to see from him in terms of the amount of carries heading into the future games?
It's a really good question. First of all, we wanted to see if he could carry the ball that much. The ball's not very heavy. It weighs a couple of ounces, and he was able to handle that. So we're really excited about that. Now, the other thing is, though, that not trying to be funny, is now his body. Okay, that was a physical game versus Ohio, and now we've got to see how his body is going to recover. We're deep at that position, okay, and we think Sean Tucker's really good. That's why he's running out there first, but we think we've got some other guys too. So we want to make sure that he can handle that workload, and if he can't handle that workload, then we need to divide it up with somebody else that's in the backfield.
Coach, you talked about training camp. What did you see from Deuce in training camp that he transferred on to the field in week 1?
Deuce was making plays in training camp. You know, when you have Garrett on one side, you're like, well, if you're in a quarterback battle, you don't want to be thrown over at Garrett. And, you know, the quarterbacks started going after Deuce. And about halfway through, they started realizing that they needed to start spreading that out and going both ways. Deuce was making plays all over the place. Sometimes guys get into situations where they're going to be cautious, but Deuce is normally aggressive. Okay, now he's got to be careful with that because people will come after him being a younger guy and double move him and whatnot and do all those type of things to try to put him on his heels. But he's a very confident young man and he's very mature about his work, and hopefully he'll continue in that tradition of young corners that we have where they come here with a sole purpose. And that purpose is not only getting a degree at Syracuse University, but having an opportunity to be drafted very high in the NFL draft.
All right,
Okay.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Nate, you got me making faces on TV.